Okay, so announcement. Your exam one will be on Wednesday, normal class time. Please email me if you need ADA accommodation. I might have gotten, I think I got one or two emails, but I forgot who they were. So if you could just send me another email to remind me, that'd be great. For the IRP application, that will be due on Friday, midnight. For our Friday class, it will be our final approval for your study. So I will spend about 10 minutes with each group, and you will take 5 minutes to go over your study ideas and your methods with me. Make sure you're prepared, otherwise we'll be wasting time. And then I will spend about 5 minutes to give you feedback, to tell you whether the method is practical or your study idea needs to be changed. Hopefully not. That's why I encourage you to ask questions early. Yeah. Also think about who will be the main speaker for the group. You're not going to speak in front of the whole class, but just make sure you know what you're talking about when I come to your group. Okay. Okay, so today we'll finish up chapter 4, changing attitudes by changing our behavior. So question, do attitudes predict behavior? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes? Anyone disagree? Oh, all right, we'll talk about this. What about this? Do we say one thing and do another? Yes? Right? Okay, so for pollution, 92% of Americans believe it is a moderate or very serious threat. However, only 35% of Americans recycle. That's not a lot. So there's a difference between the attitudes and the behavior, right? For honesty, survey shows that Americans value honesty, that we all value this. It's on our school code. However, 86% of Americans admit to lying regularly. There's this article, it's pretty interesting. It estimates that most people can not lie for more than 10 minutes. So whether it's little or large, there's some lies in our daily life. Okay. Volunteering. 75% of Americans agree that people should volunteer, but only 25% of them volunteered any activities. They're all from pretty credible source. I also included the link to the PowerPoint. If you're interested, you can go take a look at those reports. So this tells us that attitudes, they don't always predict behavior. So situation matters when we try to look at whether attitudes and behavior are consistent. For example, let's say that I don't like drinking. I don't want to drink alcohol. But when I go out with friends, when I'm in that situation at a bar or at a party, and it might be a little bit appropriate to drink a little bit just to fit in. And that might alter my behavior from my attitude. Does that make sense? Yep. Also, social norms can play a role. Let's say that I really hate shaking hands. I'm just making examples here. Those don't apply to me. Let's say if I hate shaking hands, I'm terrified of germs. But when I meet someone is from the field or from the same work environment, or if I'm trying to apply for a new job, it's more appropriate to shake hands, even though I don't like it, right? So social norms can also play a role in our behavior, regardless our attitudes. Okay, so now can you think of any examples when situation matters, when situation changes your behavior from your attitude, and when social norms changed your behavior from your initial attitudes? Wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Could you expand that a little bit more?
Like, it's not a social norm.
Oh, sorry, you were talking. I'm sorry that you were wearing masks. I wasn't sure who was talking. I'm sorry. Sure.
Like, it didn't used to be a social norm,
Uh-huh.
in like the US at least.
Yep.
And so like no one wore a mask, and even now like it's still not a social norm, so it's still like really contentious about like whether or not people should wear masks or do wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you look at East Asian cultures, like for many of them the norm is to wear masks even before COVID-19
Mm-hmm.
if you feel sick.
Yep.
So like they haven't had that problem with getting people to wear masks.
Okay. So would you say that when people start to wear masks here, it's more about situations, right? And then now everyone wears masks, and if you don't wear a mask, you feel kind of pressured. That would be social norms. Right? Very good. Very good. That's a good example. Wearing a mask. What else?
I would also say like using hand sanitizer would be a big one.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Using hand sanitizer.
Sanitizer. Yep, yep. Yeah. Now I'm bringing this sanitizer with me. Gotta clean my hand. Very good, very good. So just know that attitudes, they don't always predict people's behavior. So here's a question. When do attitudes predict our behavior? You can take a minute or two to think about this or talk with each other.
Mask wearing is a pretty good example of that.
Could you say that again?
Mask wearing is a really good example of what your attitudes predict your behavior. Like if you believe that masks are stupid, or you buy into like, oh, masks don't work, then like you don't wear masks.
Yep. So what if people think that wearing masks is still stupid, but they get a fine if they don't wear it, or they can't even go to a grocery store? They still have to wear it, right? So, yeah.
In the book, it talked about the theory of planned behavior, like 3 variables. Is that what you're asking about?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's actually you're getting really close. So this is not in your textbook. Sorry, this is not in your textbook. That's why I want you to do some independent thinking. Like when do our attitudes predict our behavior? So yeah, the 3 components. What about it?
Well, like one of them is that you believe that you can actually do the behavior, or like perform it. So I think that's like a good one. Like as far as like the environment stuff, like maybe you do think that like pollution is bad, but you just don't see yourself being able to like live 0 waste.
Okay. So let's talk about the 3 components. We have the affective, which is our feelings. We have cognitive, will be our thoughts and beliefs, and then the behavior. Could you put that in context? What will be the affective components? What will be the cognitive components? And how does that work?
Those are the 3 things that I have written down. I heard the first one is attitude towards the behavior, and then subjective norms.
Oh, so you're talking about 3 components.
Yeah, is that not something that's like going to be tested in this one?
It could be. I don't remember that. Did I say it's the 3 components?
In the textbook, it just called it the theory of planned behavior, and it says 3 key variables.
Okay.
Because
because I don't remember using three components. Let's simplify this. When we talk about three components of an attitude, I'm referring to affective components. So the feeling part of your attitude, the cognitive part of your attitude, and then your behavior component. I think that will be better for your exam. So when I mention three components, you're not going to think about different things. Could you explain a little bit more what you were talking about?
About
your three components.
Okay,
I mean, the three variables.
It was saying like that these things impact like the attitude, behavior, relationship, and so like when are those going to be the closest to each other, and when are those going to be?
Okay, it's actually pretty close to what I'm going to talk about using the three components that I use. So attitudes will predict our behavior when the cognitive and affective components match. So for example, my cognitive components of an attitude when I see a stimulus will be whether it's dangerous. So that's my thought, that's my belief. And then my affective component is that I'm afraid. After that, it will be the behavior, whether I run away or not. If it doesn't match, you might not run away, you might get confused. You might stand there for a little bit to think about it. So now I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So when you see a bear, if you think it is dangerous and you are scared of it, you will run away, right? But if you see a bear, you know it could be dangerous, but you think it's so cute that you just want to stay with it, and you might hesitate, like, do I approach the bear or do I run away from the bear? Well, you should always run from the bear. I'm just giving you an example. And then when you see a puppy, think about it, whether it's dangerous. It's not. And am I afraid of a dog? No. And then your behavior will be consistent. I would not run away, right? And then snake will be the same. If your cognitive components is consistent with your affective components, it's better for us to predict your behavior. So those are some examples using animals. Does it make sense? Okay, good. So that's one situation when attitudes predict behavior. Also, attitudes predict behavior when the attitude is formed by direct experience. So I'm gonna give you an example here. So for grad students, we usually have assignments. So we get paid to survive. This fall, grad students, they were assigned to teach either in person or online. However, because of COVID-19, there was a petition people created to protest in-person classes. So a lot of grad students, they don't want to teach in class because they think it's not safe. And they also wanted to raise the salary for students who teach online. That's the petition. So who are more likely to sign this petition? Is it the grad students who are assigned to teach in person, or is it the grad students who are assigned to teach online? In person. Yeah, very good. So it should be pretty straightforward or relatable. Like if you experience this personally, you're more likely to behave and you're more likely to act with the attitude. A lot of grad students, when they teach online, they might also think, yeah, it's not safe, but they're less likely to act on that on the attitude. Does that make sense? All right. So now, could you give me one example of people have a attitude from their direct experience, and then they behave based on that behavior. I mean, based on the attitude.
Can you say that one more time?
Oh yeah, just try to come up with an example of this. When you have an direct experience that lead to your attitude, and then you behave based on that attitude. I'll give you another example. Just to clarify, I didn't sign this because I didn't really care. I feel like if you are careful, you should be fine. Just don't be reckless. Don't go to parties without a mask. I think you should be safe, relatively safe. So, yeah. And then another example. Black Lives Matter. If you personally experienced racism, or if you're white and people keep talking about racism with you, you're more likely to engage in Black Lives Matter movement than someone who doesn't talk about it or they don't experience racism, right? For example, let's say if I'm being Asian, I don't really experience blatant racism, or I just don't pay attention to those. And then when I talk to my friends, if I'm not like super into politics, I might not engage in political movements, right? Although my attitude will be, yeah, racism is bad, and we could do something to change this, but I might not necessarily act on those attitudes. Does that make sense? Again, examples, don't quote me on that. And yeah, that's another example. So can you think of any examples on your own? Yeah.
Perhaps, I know that when you work for like a food service, sometimes you like know what goes into the food because you've worked there, and so sometimes you will have the attitude of you won't eat there again once you leave.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, most people should know that fast food or restaurants, they do not necessarily safe or healthy, right? The environment could be dirty, but sometimes we just still go. But if you actually work there and then you experienced it, your attitude could be stronger, and then you're more likely to engage in the behavior that you don't go to that restaurant. Very good, very good. Does that make sense? All right, okay. So just make sure you know what it means, and you can actually apply this to your daily life. Okay, this is a funny video about grad students. I remember some of you wanted to go to grad school. Sure.
I'm gonna fund the PhDs. Hey guys, I heard an assistant professorship just opened up. At the University of Psych! Oh. I'm so bored I cut the ponytail off the guy sitting in front of us. Look at me, I'm a grad student. I'm 30 years old and I made $600 last year.
Don't make fun of grad students.
They just made a terrible life choice.
No food for you grad students till you grade 3,000 papers.
Oh, personally, I think it's super relatable. The reason that I wanted to show you this is I used an example about like grad students signing petition, right? One reason that I think a lot of grad students, they care so much about this is that they really don't think that they get paid enough to do the job that they're doing. So they're doing research, they are also teaching, and then they only get paid like $1800 per month. It's kind of hard to survive, and they might think, oh, it's not worth it. That's why I think a lot of grad students are voicing up, oh, we want this and we want that. But I think about this on both sides. You're getting a PhD degree for free, like the school pays for your tuition. I think it's fair to work a little extra. I guess that's just my personal opinion. But if you're going to grad school, know that would be the situation. You'll be broke for 5-6 years. You have no money. Like that's really accurate. Like I will go to public talks for free food. I'll just give speech and then they provide me food. It's kind of hard. So talk to grad students if you decide to go to grad school. What else? Oh, about the jobs. The first joke was said there's a position open at the University of Psych. So for grad students, most of us don't get to choose where we want to work at. It's more like whenever there's a position open, and then we apply for it, regardless of the locations. And then if they want us, we'll go there. It's not like, oh, I want to stay in this area, and then I apply to the jobs only in this area. For grad students, our options are very limited. Those are just some side notes that I thought about when I was preparing the class. Okay. Any questions regarding our chapter 4 or grad school? No? Good. Okay, so cognitive dissonance. We kind of talked about this in our previous class, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth this time. So cognitive consistency, that is when we are motivated to maintain consistency between our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And we always have that motivation to keep it consistent. And when we detect any inconsistency, we will experience cognitive dissonance. And when we experience cognitive dissonance, we will try to get consistency back through changing our cognitive components or changing our behavior components. And now I'm going to give you an example. My attitude is that, again, just an example, doesn't apply to me. My attitude is that smoking is bad, but I still smoke. And then I will feel this cognitive dissonance, right? I know it's bad, but I'm doing it. I should feel bad about this. I could either change my cognitive components. So I could say that, okay, smoking helps me relax. So that's a benefit. That's why I smoke. So I'm changing my cognitive components. It's not all bad. Sometimes it's good. Or I could change my behavior components, which is I could tell myself, oh, I only smoke when I'm really stressed. When I'm really stressed, I will smoke 1 cigarette. And that's changing my behavior components to make myself feel better. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, good. Well, smoking is really bad. Doesn't matter if you change your cognitive components or your behavior components. It's bad. Don't smoke. There's nothing good about it. Okay. Oh, so how many of you think that smoke helps people relax? No? That's good. That's good. A lot of people think that when I teach Psych 107, there are more students. That's like an illusion. Usually when people are tired, they work all day and then they have a cigarette. They feel like they're refreshed. it's not the cigarette that's doing the job. It's actually you're taking a couple minutes break. You're standing outside. And then that gives you the brain a little time off to feel rested. It's not the cigarette. That's a misattribution. All right. Okay, now let's do a discussion. Think of an experience when you felt cognitive dissonance. So when your actions contradicted your attitudes. How did it make you feel? And what did you do to reduce that feeling? You can have a couple minutes to talk about this. And then we'll talk about it together.
I can see. I'm very like interested in like the environment and all that stuff. And so like I recycle, but I obviously like still use plastics. That would be like just see as a think that like living zero waste is like really awesome. And I wish I could do that, but I still use plastic and buy plastic really. And then how I reduce that feeling is I guess like I just have to not think that it's super bad to use all the plastic that it is, you know?
It's like, like, I'm like, I know I'm not gonna give you specific bugs that didn't want to do it.
I guess I would say that like my parents told me like never speeding is bad, but then like I still definitely do it. And so I like to reduce the feeling, I like changed my attitude to like it's not that bad.
Yeah. I guess it's for everything. I just say it's not that bad.
Yeah, I was like it's not that bad.
I guess like for me, like I procrastinate sometimes, like I have the attitude that like I wanna get things done ahead of time, and like start studying ahead of time and all that kind of stuff. Then sometimes I like let it slip and I'll procrastinate. And then I either prepare better the next time, or like have a different mind, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be fine, and it's
I just say be self-care.
I mean, I know literally, like I have a very bad mix between like overachieving and procrastinating, you know. And then I'm just like trying to put it off. I'm like, I really need a face mask right now, you know. We love that. That's literally me yesterday. Yeah, it was like just like a 4-hour break from this 20 minutes of studying.
All right, howdy. Thank you. So, any fun examples? Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one I could think of was, and this probably comes up more frequently than I think, but we're basically just talking about times that, like, your morals or what you think is good to do clashes with your own desires. Basically, so like the example I was giving was, I usually want to be a generous person. I think it's a good thing to be generous to others. It's just how I want to treat people.
Mm-hmm.
And a few nights ago, my roommate's girlfriend was over, and I got Ch4 and I really enjoyed Ch4 and usually I would think I'm pretty comfortable sharing food. I'm like, it's whatever. Like if they want something, it's like whatever. It's not that much skin off my back to give them, you know, what they want.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, in that moment, I was like, no. Like she asked to have some food, and I was like, no. Like I don't have any desire to be generous.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, in that moment. And which I know, but like in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to, like that's not the way you should treat people. You know what I mean? Like you care about them, and they should. And so in that moment, I ended up giving her some food because I felt really bad.
Okay.
Like, but in that moment, I felt a lot of cognitive dissonance between how I think I should treat other people and how I want to treat other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty good. Well, should be a good practice not sharing food at this particular time, but just be careful. Very good. That's a good example. You should feel bad. That's your affective component when you experience cognitive dissonance, because cognitive dissonance is more about your thoughts. That would be the it's kind of obvious. Cognitive dissonance is about the cognitive components, and then you feel bad, it will be your affective components, and then you behave differently. Like you either change your behavior, or you gave her food at the end, or you tell yourself a different story, then you feel better. Okay, very good, very good. I'll take one more example. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna read this online comments. Lately, I haven't been studying as much as previous semesters because of the pandemic and lots of open notes tests. Oh, and it's caused me a lot of distance. I've been trying to study more now, though, change my behavior because I'm used to studying a lot. Yeah. So you're used to studying a lot, and then you like to have the exam that's closed book, and there's some outer force to push you to study, and then now you got all the freedoms. You don't have to come to class. That's what happened last week. And then, well, we're not gonna have open notes tests. Hopefully, you guys just be honest, don't do it, because I'm not gonna proctor you guys unless you come here. Yeah, that's a good example. All right, so come to class. It's fun. Come on. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so our attitudes, they can predict behavior, although it's not always. Our behavior can also predict our attitudes. People tend to rationalize their behavior or their cognitive dissonance. There is an example I'm going to use here, would be the hazing culture. How many of you know about the hazing culture? Yeah? From fraternity sorority or from movies?
Like Greek life and the cool.
Yeah. So can you tell us about the hazing culture, like what this is, and what do you think about it, and why do you think it exists?
I think just when like people have power, they think it's fun to like exercise that even when it's not necessary, just because it makes them feel good. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more like people rationalize it in the sense of like it's a rite of passage. You have to like earn your way into the organization and the group by like proving yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or like, if there's no external accountability, like there's no one to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
People get very like intertwined and like kind of obsessive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those who doesn't know, I didn't know before I really learned about the Greek life or the military culture here, is that people get hazed. When they join a new group, they get bullied, basically. The reason for this, they did a study. It's that some people feel good, they experienced it, so they want to implement it to newer group members. Yes, and another reason is that what you just talked about, it makes people feel like they have earned a position to that group. There was this study in psychology. So they were trying to get a club. It's about literature. So they asked students to read either a regular literature or a mildly inappropriate, like sexual novel, or they asked them to read a very severe sexual explicit novel. So it includes like all kinds of words that you typically don't use in your daily life, unless, I don't know, unless you just like don't care cuss all the time. So what they found is that the people who read the severe novel, they felt more connected to the group. They reported the club is more interesting compared to the people who read a regular novel or a mild novel. Does that make sense? That was a study, psychology has done. And here is that after you get hazed in the military, you feel more belonged to the group, and you have more positive attitudes towards the group. That's for most people, not everyone though. It doesn't work for everyone. Okay, so that's people are using their behavior to change their attitudes, right? Because they get hazed, they did this embarrassing stuff, and they need to rationalize, why did I do that? Maybe it's because it's fun, maybe it's because I think it's worth it, maybe it's because I feel honored to join this club. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, next we're going to talk about persuasion or compliance principles. First, we're going to talk about the foot in the door technique. This is when we first get the target to accept a rather minor request, and then we ask for a larger request. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say a friend is asking another person, can you give me some ideas of making a birthday cake for my friend or for my parents? That's pretty easy, right? It takes a couple minutes to come up with that idea, or a couple seconds, and then you can talk about it. It's pretty easy, minor request. And then 10 minutes later, you ask them, oh, since you already gave me the idea, would you come to the store with me and shop for those ingredients? Because you know this better, you gave me the idea, you're already committed, kind of committed to it, right? And then you're more likely to say yes if you did this first. Yeah. An hour later, when you get back from the grocery store, and then you ask your friends, would you like to bake the cake together? And you're more likely to say yes because you committed to it, you contributed, and then you're more likely to engage in that behavior. Versus if I just asked you, would you like to bake a birthday cake with me right in front? Does that make sense? So you're using small requests to build it up to get to a bigger request. And you can actually use this in your life. Sorry, this is a typo. This should be the door in the face technique. So this is when we begin with an unreasonably large request, and then we retreat to a smaller request. And this is a perfect example. So the kid asks the mom, since my internet connection is unstable. Okay, hopefully the online students can still hear. So the kids ask the mom, can I have a chocolate marshmallow sundae with whipped cream and a cherry on top? And then the mom says, of course no, beetle. And then the kid says, well, then can I have 2 cookies? And the mom will be yes. So the kid says this is ask for a lot, settle for little technique, which is exactly what the door in the face is. You slam them with a large request. For example, if I asked you to lend me $10, you'd be like, what? Well, assuming we're friends. However, if I asked you to lend me $100, and you'd be like, no, I don't have that much money, and then I would be like, oh, what about 50? What about $10? And then you feel like $10 is not that much, and then you're more likely to give me $10, right? Does that make sense? No? Yeah? Okay, good. So here is an example.
Yes? Hello, ma'am. We're going to run town offering snow shoveling service. Would you like your driveway and sidewalk shoveled for $8,000?
Oh, well, I certainly could use some little snow shovelers, but $8,000 seems a little steep. How about $15?
It's a deal. All right, guys, let's get to work. Yeah, so yeah, I did break practice dance retard. Yeah, sweet. So what's going on over there? Yeah, that's pretty good. No way. He did not. Oh, dude, that is so weird. What? You've been on your phone since we started. Dude, I'm taking a break. A break for what? Haven't done anything. How many times do we have to go through this? I'm the negotiator. I negotiate our price with the customer. It works, doesn't it? Did I not just get an extra $5? If you want to share the money, then you're going to shovel snow like the rest of us. Hey, don't fuck me around.
Oh, that's it. You don't think it's funny? I thought it was funny. All right. Okay, now let's flip the classroom. I want you to teach me the low ball technique, the bait and switch technique, and the pre-giving technique. You can spend some time to talk with each other. We have about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Maybe switch a person, so advertise the product at a very low price, however, when the soda buy it at much limited low prices suddenly sold out. So you're forced to buy the other product that was more expensive because
Robot coding is just where you offer slightly more than that extra, like, cheap, even if you're not going to kill the front price. And then bait and switch is where you promise them some cheap thing, and then switch it out with something more expensive.
Right. I think it can apply to like things outside of selling stuff. I'm just trying to think of things.
Wait, what do you mean lowball? Like they promise something cheap, but they don't give it cheap?
I thought that's what lowball technique was, when you promise, like, say like a car salesman would promise a car for a really, really cheap price, but they wouldn't deliver.
Wouldn't that be
It's
bait and
still
switch though, because
Yeah,
it's gonna be
because
low
then, like,
price
they
and
would
then it's
have to
like,
raise it.
oh, extra costs and fees and
No, I
everything.
thought, maybe, or I thought bait and switch was you switch it out with something more expensive. It's like lowball technique,
It's like
you just
giving
offer
someone
the car.
right before you ask them for like something in return. It's like giving
I thought low ball would be more like, instead of being like, oh, I really love this car, and then saying a big price, starting at a low price, and then building up from there.
Okay.
Like if you're willing to spend 15,000.
Yeah, if you start with
10,000.
Lowball technique, in this case, the salesman promises the person something desirable, such as a low price on the car, with the intention of getting the person to imagine himself or herself engaging in that desire. Even if the low price isn't actually thing.
Okay,
So
and
it's to
then,
get to agree to the behavior.
and I guess I can lead to bait and switch.
Bait and switch occurs when someone advertises a product at a very low price. When you visit the store to buy a product, you learn the product one that the low price has been sold out, and then you're usually offered a higher price alternative.
Does it have to be sold out, or could it be like,
Well, I don't think it has to be sold out, it's just unavailable.
so they couldn't lowball then lead
Yeah,
into
I've
bait
never
and
got
switch?
quick.
Cause like,
I
when you
think
think
so.
it's gonna be the low price, would you be low ball?
I was like, I feel like they're just connected, and
Yeah.
that's confusing. Cause like the low ball, you can't, like,
Oh, is it like?
if I promise you a car for $10,000,
Yeah.
and then like, I just don't give you a car,
And
you
then-
know? Like what I'm more likely to do is like give it to you for $1,500.
Howdy. We have about 6 minutes left, so let's get started. Anyone want to teach me what the lowball technique is?
Yeah, it's basically right when someone will like offer an extremely low offer to get you to settle for something that is more satisfactory.
Can you explain why wouldn't I feel like you're lying to me? You said you will give me this price, and now you're raising the price, right?
Oh wait, I thought it was like the other way around. Like in car, or like if I went to buy a car or something, you know, like if it's $20,000 car and I'm like, listen, I can do 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then they're like, oh, well, I can't do that. And it's like, okay, and then like you come and settle for 10,000. So you're still getting $10,000 off, but it's because you lowball them.
Oh, you lowball them.
Yeah.
Guess you could use it that way. So usually, I don't know if that will be technically lowball because, um, first of all, it's commonly used in salesperson. They use a low price to attract people's attention. So first you need to grab their attention by selling, let's say, a $20,000 car for 10,000. So many people will come to the store and be like, where's your $10,000 car? And then the salesperson will tell the customer, oh, we actually just ended the deal. We don't have that deal anymore. However, we can offer you a less, not as good as the original deal, but still pretty good deal. And then the customers, they spend the effort. They came to the store, they look at the car, they maybe test drive it. They're committed. So they're more likely to take a worse offer because the best offer is not there anymore. Or the best offer never existed. Does that make sense? Yes.
Wouldn't that be like the bait and switch technique then?
So they're similar. Anyone wants to tell me the difference between the bait and switch? Yes.
Is the bait and switch you're offering a completely new product, but with the low ball, it's the same product but for more expensive?
Very good, very good. So bait and switch is similar. You grab their attention first by using, I don't know, low price or some crazy technique that you can grab their attention first. And then you bait them and then you tell them, oh, we sold out. We don't have this car anymore, but we have another car that's very similar to this car. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive, but it's a better car. And you're more likely to bite that bait. Does that make sense? Because you're there. Otherwise, let's say you're really interested in Mustang and you're not interested in Camaro at all. But now, you know a ton about Mustang. Now the car shop tells you that there's a really good Mustang at the shop. And then you go there, they say, oh, we sold out. But the Camaro is actually better. So they show you the car, they tell you why it's better, they let you test drive it. You'd be like, yeah, maybe Camaro is better than Mustang. I just didn't do my research. And you're more likely to buy that car that you didn't want to buy at the first place. That would be the bait and switch. Does that make sense? Yes.
So would the low ball be like buying a cheaper Mustang, or what's the low ball?
So the low ball is not necessarily buying a cheaper Mustang. For example, let's say the Mustang, the market price is $20,000. And then because it's a new Mustang, people raise the price to $25,000. And then now this car dealer shop says that I can sell you the car for $10,000. And you come here, you're like, oh, this is much cheaper than the market price or whatever other people are selling. And then the dealership tells you that, yes, we had this deal before, but that was yesterday. And today we have to sell it for $20,000. It's still cheaper than what other people are selling, but it's the market price. And you're more likely to buy the car for that market price. Otherwise, you might just wait a little bit longer to see if the price drops. Does that make sense? So to remember this, the low ball is that you're using a low value to attract people's attention. And then you go back to the original price or even higher. And then people are more likely to be persuaded. A bait and switch is you use certain action to attract their attention, and then you switch their interest to a different product. It's a little similar, but they're different. What about the pre-given? Do we have time? We don't have time, but anyone want to give me a quick? Yes.
Forgiving is often when they like mail you something for free and then they expect you to give it everything back.
Yeah, very good. So it's very simple. I'm gonna give you a little bit of favor. I will do you a little favor, and then you're more likely to help me the next time. So that's it. All right. Good luck with your exam exam 1 on Wednesday. And if you want to come here, I'll be here. That's it.